Good morning, everyone. First of all, let me thank the founders, the runners of the ICELA Association, and the organizers of this ICELA 2021 International Conference on Education, Language, and Art. Um, the title of my keynote speech is Teaching Media Through Media in China from a Screen, using online and hybrid methods to explain the media practice. My name is Marco Pellitteri. I'm a PhD in sociology and social research, but I specialize in visual media and communication, and I am an associate professor at Shanjiao Liverpool University in Suzhou, China. So I have prepared a few slides, um, and this is my presentation, my keynote in a nutshell. Um, so universities in China have been among the most efficient in embracing between February and July 2020, and then in the following months until now, all online teaching, and since September 2020, on-site and online classes in a mixed approach. In 2020-2021, with the reopening of Chinese university campuses, on-site teaching has resumed with all the due sanitary precautions. And so the more or less normal routine has resumed, but adopting so-called hybrid or high-flex didactics. So to describe these and cognate strategies for teaching subjects referring to media theories and practice, that is the things that I teach, my presentation summarizes my experience as a professor who taught research methodology, history and theories of advertising and creative industries, theories and techniques of visual communication, and creative practice of graphic design. I did it first in the second semester of the academic year 2019-2020. I did it all online, like all of us, right? And then I did it as high flex modules in the first semester of 2020-2021. Still today, at XJTLU, as well as in many other Chinese and international universities beyond China, high flex and hybrid classes are pretty much the norm. I also have why so I mentioned the graphic design, visual communication, advertising. In fact, I also have a professional background in graphic design and advertising, which I have pursued for many years before and during my academic career, or at first, at least, there has been some kind of superimposition between professional career in the industry and academic career in university. So my note, my talk offers hopefully useful reflections on online and asynchronous teaching, also in reference to these topics, which are tightly related to creative practice and on the need for a degree of co-presence between teacher and students. I would like to give you first some theoretical context about high flex and so-called blended models. So high flex, which I have already mentioned a couple of times, is the union of hybrid and flexible, a method pioneered by Brian Beatty at San Francisco State University back in 2005, and still particularly used, especially used. It consists of teaching to an on-site group and to a remote group of students, either individually or grouped in another room. And this kind of teaching may be simultaneous or asynchronous, using videos of the lessons recorded in the classroom and or video lectures made upstream for asynchronous fruition only. This asynchronicity relies on what has been called the flipped model, where students engage with content in a fashion that does not require face-to-face presence. Supporters of the flipped model assume that asynchronous and synchronous teaching are on the same level of efficacy, which seems to imply that there is a, an underestimation of the elements of co-presence, sociality, and materiality. Uh, Solitary study has been a constant of university since its establishment in Italy in the 11th century, and it is a key element of learning. But there are also teachers who solely rely on asynchronicity. Now, why this could be considered as abdicating to relationality? We know that depending on the type of course, studentship, and digital divide, asynchronicity may at times be the only solution. So coming to the label blended, blended suggests a coexistence of on-site and off-site students and a fusion of methods that take the best from both worlds. The face-to-face and computer-mediated activities um, entail that the two groups of students participate in tasks to perform via digital devices, so to attempt finding a unity between the two situations. But the notion of blending, in my opinion, may be a bit confusing. So in this talk, I will point to the use of the term mixed didactics instead. Also, mixed sounds to me a little more humble than blended. Um, anyway, many educational settings around the world are reframing their situations using the label new normal. How many times have we already heard the label new normal during and after the viral outbreaks all around the world? So there is indeed a new normal, but it is also undeniable that the high flex or blended or mixed didactic approaches have special features which in this case are already becoming, in fact, a new normal. Um, Mainly, think of all the storable artifacts, such as the recorded video lessons, as well as the composite presentations with videos and slides, forum discussions, topic situated tasks managed via shared documents, and many other devices and games, quizzes, and other activities that can be conducted through the digital media. Things that were absolutely not the norm a few years ago, or even 2 years ago, probably. Um, there has been a lot of scholarship that stated that modern learning technologies have freed students and educators from the lock of the classroom space. Uh, but thinking of the classroom as a space to be rescued from is a very negative approach. So I don't agree with this approach. Moreover, glorifying information technologies as the the remedy to everything, to any didactic problems, is too much. So the idea of blending and flipping actually is that of maximizing the time together between teacher and students to interact, and then use content and pushing the learning that can be done alone um, in within each student's situated perspective. So sometimes there is, in these cases, maybe the risk that more than blending, you have a fragmentation of knowledge and of learning. But these are the risks that come along with the new technologies. I'm not against new technologies. On the contrary, I only think that, as I am trying to explain, they need to be used with a certain methodology and moderation. In fact, many educational developers today consider that tablet computers and smartphones are, wireless devices which enable teachers and students to browse websites, to search for certain information, share learning content, or interact with peers. But the ideas that inform my personal teaching practice are in contrast with what is currently believed to be the new standard. I think that, and actually, research also provides evidence that a too rich variety of electronic tools may flood, as happens, the pedagogical relationship and the learning process. So now, let's talk a moment about what happened recently, not so far in time, and how I, with colleagues, try to cope with the situation. In 2018, foreign nationals enrolled in degree and post-degree programs in China were more than 250,000 from many different countries and regions in the world. And basically, China has been the country with the highest number of foreign students. But with the first viral outbreak, hundreds of thousands of foreign students had left China for the holidays and have not been allowed to re-enter yet. And this has been cause of disappointment. So now, during the months of China's lockdown, the formula adopted everywhere in China was all online teaching. In the first semester 2020-21, despite the reopening of most campuses in China, um, due to the substantial quantity of foreign students still overseas, the new method pursued was the aforementioned high flex blended teaching, where the use of digital platforms was inevitable. Institutions around the world have been adopting a variety of programs for software, platforms for online teaching. Zoom, for example, has become a must-have. In China, there's also an app that is basically the same as Zoom called Zoomu. But even though these applications have reached a status of global standard, they entail reportedly technical limits and create also psychological and pedagogical problems for teachers and students, partly based on their inner mechanics. So we all know how stressful a video conference on Zoom or Joomu can be. They are powerful tools, but sometimes they can be hard to use, or they can create some kind of fatigue. Anyway, the main platforms used in China, as we all know, are different. So now I will tell you, in fact, about my experiences as at CISU and XJTLU. This is a small slide that summarizes the, um, the sources that I have used for this talk, and I will give you the in the final slide the the complete references. Um, so let's talk first of all about the all online experience that I could enjoy at Shanghai International Studies University in between February and June 2020. So that was my last semester as a teacher at the CISUS School of Journalism and Communication and the Honors College. Um, So everybody had to resort to online teaching. My courses, which I had a brand new design for CISU, were for undergraduate students. The titles of the courses were Global Creative Industries and Pop Cultural Entertainment, and Theory and Creative Practice of Graphic Design and Advertising. Um, and also for the Honors College, I taught research thinking and methodology for the social sciences and the humanities. Usually my number of students were 20 or 30, but at the Honors College, the methodology course had about 75 students from 14 different majors, because the Honors College at Shanghai International Studies University collects the best students from all faculties, from all schools of the university. So Sisu resorts to two co-integrated platforms for online teaching. They are called Blackboard.com and Classin.com. Blackboard is for planning and announcement, storage for didactic materials, and a wide range of coursework, quizzes, games, and exam formats. Classin is an interface for live lessons or recording for asynchronous delivery. Now, lessons are recorded usually on Classin and automatically transferred to Blackboard, where students can rewatch them. Classin has a lot of tools, the majority of which, however, I decided not to use, so to keep the didactic approach very simple, mainly based on my relationship with the students and on forms of friendly interaction, where the basic assumption as a narrative and social pact with the students was that we all were in the same room, actually, even if we were not. I will show you here a slide. So as you can see, this is a snapshot that I took from a lesson from the course. Of course, I covered here the faces and the names of the students for privacy. Um, and the situation was usually very pleasant. But I will tell you something. At the start of the semester, you know that students back last year were confused and shocked as anywhere. So in that situation, I thought that I had to reduce the use of technological tools to the minimum, focus instead on the creation of a virtual classroom and devise class rules to set new expectations for everyone based on the establishing lesson after lesson of human contacts with students and among them. So this was done through some moments, ritual moments and conventions. The first was that the video camera had to be on for everybody and at all times, making it explicit to the students that it was important that each of us could see everyone else, so to be aware that we were one group, all co-present to each other, with each other. Second, that in every lesson, some minutes of small talk at the beginning of a session were very important. And so that I made the big smiles and I made some jokes. I asked questions not particularly related to the module, and so I referred to some of my personal life episodes, so to create a sense of shared humanity, hopefully. Third, I encourage students to handwrite notes on paper, explaining the many advantages of this practice as a way to focus and to make time pass by more fluidly, quickly, and effectively. And the fourth thing is I try to connect the theoretical concepts that I was introducing to actual life situations, episodes of my daily life, and I invited the students to make examples related to their own experiences. I also discouraged them from keeping their mobile phone on their desk, unless, of course, it was the device connecting them to the live stream lesson. here there is a key point that I would like to consider with you. The two modules required students to draw creative shapes and symbols on paper with pencils and color pens, manually copy famous brands and logos by highlighting their structure and balances, analyze the gestalt related criteria of famous images by superimposing constructive arrow lines and geometrical schemes to them, compose storyboards for potential TV commercials, or lay out design projects of book covers, posters, or internet social media ad banners, as well as watching videos with the teacher synchronously. I will show you here another image in which here I am teaching students desktop publishing, how to create um, the grid of a journal, a tabloid, or a magazine. This is a very famous software for graphic design. So the difference between the cautions and methods that were necessary to devise in this all online edition of the courses compared with the didactics that could be deployed before was really striking to me and to the students. In the online edition, it was impossible to materially stay in the same physical space with students to show them shoulders against shoulders, in physical co-presence, how to perform certain technical drawings, how to superimpose a series of sheets, make them touch different kinds of paper for printing, assist them directly on the computer, showing them how to perform a variety of technical commands. Everything had to be done here between screens. But in the second part of the module, a few sessions had to be based upon real-time demonstrations of how certain software operates and according to various, formal principles, like in this slide. So I have to say, I managed, but this kind of activities should be better performed at their fullest in co-presence, and if students too are equipped with the same software so that the sessions can be active group tutorials. So this is a very important note for university. It cannot just be the teacher who has the software. But I understand that, and you understand that this was a situation of emergency. Now let's talk about XJTLU, where between September and December 2020, I taught one BA course and one master course, uh, Cultural and Creative Industries in a Digital Economy, and dissertation for the master students. So I had to adopt the high flex and blended mode. I also had international students from Indonesia, South Africa, South Korea, the Netherlands, and Nigeria. Um, so the multi-purpose platform that XJTLU has is a Moodle-based virtual learning environment with an inbuilt video conferencing, video storage, and so many other functions, a little bit like the Blackboard and the Classin. My lessons were 180 minutes long, so 3 hours, all in a row, with an interactive lecture using English as a medium of communication, and a seminar with discussions and talks. The sessions were all live recorded. There were students on site in the classroom. I was in the classroom, and then other students would connect in mute mode without enabling their camera, but keeping active through the live chat. Uh, and The classroom's PC usually is connected to a video camera on a tripod placed on the desk of the teacher. Usually, I direct the camera towards myself to display my head and upper body, a little bit like now, but I stand, I don't sit now, I'm sitting to speak to you. And so there is a human touch with the students who join from remote locations. I will show you another slide about this. So this is the summing up of what I'm telling you just now. Here, this is an example, as you can see. But there are also limits to this arrangement. Universities are working to fix this kind of limits. The most important limitation is that if the teachers move around, they go off screen. The video cameras, in fact, are usually they do not include, a robotic rotation, so to follow teachers through the room. This has been one of the issues that many colleagues had to bypass, changing the approach to the physical relation with the physical side of the classroom. Another challenge that any mixed approach has is a communicational, let me say, a communicational schizophrenia. There is a big contrast, a big clash between the classroom situation and the online situation, where students use at most the text chat and refrain from engaging in spoken language. And this generates an asymmetry. Another issue of this mixed situation is that um, some on-site students will at times avoid coming to campus and will instead connect online. So teachers can explain why this is inappropriate, but the issue should be regulated by official policies, not just recommendations. Also in this case, for the modules partly based on practice and activities of professional simulations, such as for advertising, briefing meetings, etc. The limits of online teaching are striking. But even though this framework is in a way problematical, the engagement and the performance of the students were, I would say, very positive and more positive than expected, actually. Um, so another factor of relative success for me, at least after some, trial and error situations, was the establishment of phases of the lesson exclusively dedicated to the online learners, in which the teacher would converse, propose ideas, and ask questions looking into the camera, while the online students would join in the text chat, writing messages and considerations directed to the teacher, but also discussing among them on the lessons topic. Here in this slide, you have exactly an example of what I am describing right now. This is a moment of the lesson in which I was talking to the students online. Um, because otherwise the students online would really feel disconnected from the situation because they are really far away often. So another interesting element would be a teaching assistant who could manage the chat here by animating exchanges among the online students and facilitating them to focusing on some implications of the lecture's topic, uh, precisely at the same time when the teacher is delivering the lesson. This could sound like a distraction, but actually it engages the students because today, anyway, young generations are quite multitasking. They can do two things at the same time. But I don't want to tell you that there should be two lessons at the same time. The teaching assistant just helps keeping the students involved. So I want to give you some my personal reflections and a conclusion. Um, the first is that besides engaging students with history and theory thick lectures and diverse homework, learners in the undergraduate cohorts may need precise rules of conduct so as to acquire a certain practice with and mature mindset about the typical conventions and logics at play in the outside world, as well as punctuality, handwritten note taking, and work ethics. So to meet the learning outcomes, in my courses, I devise a mix of historical, theoretical teaching and case studies and exercises. And I privilege group tasks, but I also encourage personal initiative with the target of having students see themselves as practitioners invested with personal responsibility. So to this end, I apply some of the main precepts explained by Schoen, transmitting to students the idea of thinking about themselves as a serious professionals in potential. Here, I want to show you this slide, but I mentioned Donald Schoen's scheme, and this is what I mean. This is a Donald Schoen's scheme on reflective practice. You see, there are two moments: the reflection in action and the reflection on action. Sorry, I have to show you here. You see? Yeah, there will be time for more closer looks at the slides because I can share them with anybody who is interested. Um, so, and I will go back to the slide in which these are four interesting and for me very useful criteria that I have adopted in my teaching when I have to conduct, like you also do, mixed teaching, online and offline teaching at the same time, the hybrid classroom. Um, so there are elements that we teachers may want to improve in our practice based on the experience of the last year and a half. So I try to do this as everybody has. Try to make mm, something that, well, these short advices or proposals cannot be all encompassing, but at least they are based on actual teaching and they are especially related to subjects in the fields of communication, media, and practice. Um, what is interesting for me personally is that they are based on my own mistakes before and during the pandemic. And I think that now the situation has very much improved through this new context in which our practice had to evolve together with the new needs of the students. So, besides the framework by Donald Schoen, I want to also show you the uh, learning cycle according to David Kolb. This applies very well and very much to the situation of a hybrid teaching and learning processes. There are always different moments, and each of the moments of the learning and teaching process uh, is important. So this scheme is really something that should be taken in a in the back of our brain and keep it with us and put it in practice as soon as much as we can. Um so to conclude, I think that there are still technical issues in universities in the way we teach in the blended mode, but I think that we are really reaching not a new normal. I don't like the word actually, but we are reaching new, interesting standards and procedures that will help us very much from in the future, in the next future or perhaps they are already helping us. The criteria that I share with you have helped me a lot, especially for in reference to the subjects that I teach, but I think that many of them can be used in general. I have also a variety of references, and so I really hope that you enjoyed. I hope this lecture or this small talk, and I would be very happy to listen to your remarks, criticisms, or perhaps questions. Thank you very much.